Hi, I'm Mike from in3.de and I'd like to show you a setup for painting damages. So let's create an object. Let's create a second object, which I'm going to turn to an edit poly. I select all the faces, Ctrl A, and delete them. Get out of subobject mode. Shift A to quick align pivot to pivot. And now we have an empty poly object that is at the same pivot point as this object. Now that it's a poly object, we have all the poly tools in here, as well as the retopology tools. So I'd like to paint on a surface. The surface will be my object, the teapot in this case, and I could now for example draw strips and things like that, or I can also draw surfaces on it, and if that's a bit large I can go into the settings and change that to a smaller size, let's say 3. And now I will draw smaller surfaces which also connect themselves to the existing surfaces. Also, if I want to paint in here, I'll hold shift and it will already start in here, which is very helpful if you have situations like that with a hole in there. You can then with shift fill these holes too. Okay, 4 polygons, Ctrl A, select all, delete. Let's start from here. I'm still in paint mode, so I'll start painting on that surface over here, something like that. Right click to stop painting, and I now have my teapot in here as well as my box. I'd like to duplicate that box, Ctrl V, but not as an instance, as a reference. Now it is an instance below the big thick line, and it is a copy above that. So above that I can add a noise. Noise, where are you? Here you are. I'm going to go fractal. I'm going to go for a small size and start adding a bit noise to it. So that is this direction. That is this direction. That already looks good. Let's add a shell on top of that to get some volume, and I also would like to have some volume to the inside, something like that, roughly 1. And I am almost done with this setup. The object itself will receive the Boolean modifier. You could also probably use the Thai Boolean if you have versions below 2024. So Boolean modifier, I'd like to use reference and select this one to be subtracted. So now we have our damage in here, but we also have very straight lines on the edges, which kind of is weird. So what we could do, we select our object, we'll go below the shell. Sadly, 3ds Max has no native tool to automatically select open borders. So I'm going to go again for Thai Flow. I'm going to go for Thai Select, and you can use the paid version as well as the free version. So we have the vertices selected, and I would like to select them by open edges. So now all the outside vertices are selected, and we can add a push modifier on that and push that off the surface, something like that. For example, maybe that's a bit too much. Let's go for, we have a thickness of 1 to the inside, so I should have a setting higher than 1 just to be on the safe side, to not have anything like that touching inside. So if I will select that now, hide that now we're getting something like that. And this is the part where I said where you maybe need to add a little more push, but it's of course also shrinking the area. To make that a little more pretty, let's add a smooth modifier. I'm going to set everything to 1 smoothing group, and now we've got all that done. I'll go back to my box 01, which is the original from my reference, and I would like to see the background. So for a totally transparent material which doesn't even need to be rendered, I prefer the legacy material, and you can turn on show incompatible materials. So then you also have the old scanline legacy material, which is going to be applied to this box. It's going to be totally transparent, no glossiness at all. And now I can work on that one. And for example, draw more surface over here. And can create shapes like that, and really custom shapes. A further option would be, let's stop the painting, turn on material editor. I have made one material which I'm going to assign to the box like that. I have another material which I'm going to assign to my teapot. And if I now hide that one, we only have the teapot here. You do have the option to use material, but sadly you have to choose that option before you add something. Well, luckily we used reference, so the object is not gone. I can either delete that one out of the list and turn that on to then, oh yeah, maybe you should have some UV information. So we'll put that below the select just to be on the safe side. I'm going to use a UV map, set that to box, and have a size of 24. Whoops. There we go. So now it is more or less even, and hopefully we don't see the seams on that one. And if we're now going back to the teapot, I can now add this object to be subtracted. And it's weird, sometimes it works, sometimes not. Well, in this case I'll just delete the modifier. I'll add a new boolean on top of that. Don't know why the material is gone, so let's reassign that to the teapot. There we go. Again, be sure to make it as a reference and subtract these from it, and now we have our custom material inside, and I can still go back to this object and add more damage wherever I want to. There we go. If it's not too pretty, you could go for selecting that one and add a turn to poly modifier to keep everything convex. It's not a super pretty mesh, but it is a functional mesh, and since everything is procedural in here, you can still go in here and start painting and add more information on it. It doesn't even have to be visible. You just have to start making a big enough area so that the corners can be lifted up and it still cuts away from the object itself.